here tonight. I want to thank Ken, of course, and the IBEW for allowing this rowdy bunch to come in here. And the great leaders, and bringing unions back together with environmentalists, with consumers, with farmers, with small business people, bring us together in a coalition that matters, a coalition that can win elections. And what a joy to be here with Lindsay and Mary. I should just hand my speech to them and have them sing it. Much better, actually. And Electra's, the Electric Electra, is doing such terrific work. I don't know if you noticed, Ken, but there's a sort of female thing happening here in the leadership.
We make the babies!
Oh, okay. I hope I'm beyond that. But, nonetheless, we have a saying over in East Texas that the rooster crows, but the hen delivers the goods. All right. Keeping with the critter theme, just makes me happier than a chigger at a nudist colony to be standing up here looking out at all of you right-wing butt kickers and corporate greed whackers, you grassroots agitators. That's really what we are. You know, they're trying to make agitator a pejorative. You know, well, you're just an agitator. Well, yeah, that's what formed America, actually, was agitation. Not the founding fathers, per se, but the Daniel Shays and Thomas Paine's, the suffragists and the abolitionists, the populist movement, the unionists, the labor movement itself, the progressives, the reformers on through the New Deal and into on down to Martin Luther King Jr. and Cesar Chavez, Karen Silkwood, Harvey Milk. I mean, these are the people who make America. After all, as Jesse Jackson put it, the agitator is the center post in the washing machine that gets the dirt out. That's a good thing. We need to be doing more of that. So we need to continue agitation and in fact increase agitation. And I come to you not just from Austin, Texas, where I live, but South Austin, and over on the south side of the river. Molly lived over there, John Henry Falk, myself, and other malcontents and mavericks. And over there, our attitude was a little more irreverent and sort of iconoclastic. Our unofficial slogan on the south side is, we're all here because we're not all there. And I think that is what brings us together, not only in this meeting tonight, but in this very progressive movement that is burgeoning all across this country. I'm a lucky duck. I've traveled just about every place that's got a zip code, and so I don't get stuck in the Washington and New York media. I've been able to be out here and see what's actually going on, and to see the progressive spirit and progressive success that we're having in constituency after constituency, coming together to make a difference. And we see, all of us, what links us together is we see that the powers that be in this country, the people that actually run this country and rule over us, are as confused as goats on AstroTurf in terms of understanding what America's all about, which is the idea that we're all in this together. That's the essential glue that holds this big, diverse, sprawling nation together. Gives us some possibility to be a common society. You know, the real political spectrum in our country is not right to left. That's theory. The real spectrum is top to bottom. That's where we live. That's your zip code. You can pretty much figure out where you are on that. So here we are in what I see as a big time in America. And we've been in it for several years now, but it's just coming to a head now. One of those times, as Thomas Jefferson wrote, when in the course of human events, moments. We're there again. It's huge what we're facing. We all know the huge issues, the inequality that is rending our land, the rise of plutocracy and autocracy, climate change, the huge issues that we have. Well, if you've got huge issues, you need huge solutions to them, huge action to deal with them. There's a dicho in South Texas, males grandes, remedios grandes. Big problems require big solutions. And that's what we have to be putting forward. Not enough for progressives to point to Donald Trump and say, well, we're not him. He is. Of course, he's got his government of goofy, sleepy, sleazy, creepy, Larry, Curly, and Moe. And congratulations that you're going to be the home of the new Space Force as soon as they can figure out what it is. But people rightly want to know, who are we? And we have to make that clear. We have to step forward and deal with that. The core reality that we face in politics is that people know that the real powers are not the politicians, but the Wall Street elites and the corporate chieftains who've been funding and controlling the elections and agendas of both parties. You don't have to be in who's who to know what's what. I mean, after all, the corporate powers are why the economic and political systems are rigged to knock down the middle class, to hold down the poor, and to tear down our democratic rights in this country. Actually, economists have a technical term for what the powers that be are doing to us. It's called stealing. Faster than a hog eats supper, they're stealing everything from us. As Woody Guthrie, I'm reminded, of course, of Woody Guthrie tonight by the great music that we've heard here. The spirit of that music, as Woody Guthrie put it in that song, Pretty Boy Floyd, the Outlaws. As through this world I travel, I see lots of funny men. Some will rob you with a 6-gun and some with a fountain pen. It's the fountain pens who are doing the serious stealing in our society today. So that's the big challenge. That's what we're after. Walmart, the typical worker at Walmart makes $22,000 a year. The 5 heirs to the Walmart fortune, the Walton family, the 5 heirs make $25,000 a minute. That's where inequality comes from. Inequality doesn't happen by accident. It happens in the back rooms of Congress and in the boardrooms of corporate elites making decisions. 3 rich people, Jeff Bezos, who's the other 2?
Bill Gates, Warren Buffett.
Yeah, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett.
Your buddies.
Yeah. These 3 people have more wealth than the bottom half of the American people have. 3 people have more wealth than 165 million people have combined. That's inequality. And that transcends into the next generation beyond that. Some of these guys are getting so rich they can afford to air condition hell, and I tell you what, they better be setting some money aside for that project. In fact, I'll tell you, because they say, actually, Mark Zuckerberg did say, came out and said, well, because he came out against Elizabeth Warren's wealth tax. Oh my God, we can't have that because that would hurt my charitable giving. You see, I'm a philanthropist. I'll tell you a quick story of what the gods think of philanthropists and charity. It's a story that Earl Long used to tell, brother of Huey Long, was also governor of Louisiana. And old Earl used to tell a story about a rich man who died and tried to get into heaven. But you know, if you'd gone to that little Methodist church that I did in Denison, Texas, growing up, you'd know you don't just go into heaven. You've got to appear at the pearly gates, and there's an angel going to review your life, and then St. Peter back behind is going to render judgment about whether you get to come in or not. So here comes this rich man, and the angel looks over his life and says, "Oh my God, you never did no good for nobody, no way. What are you doing here?" And the rich man said, "Well, now that's not entirely true. There was that time in 1924 that the beggar man on the street, I put a nickel in his cup." And the angel said, Well, and the rich man said, well, 1934, there was that widow woman, needed car fare home, and I gave her a nickel. Angel said, that doesn't make up for a life of greed. And the rich man said, well, now wait a minute, I've got a consistent pattern of philanthropy in 1944 coming out of my bank at Christmas time, Salvation Army kettle, put a nickel in there. And the angel turns back to St. Peter and says, partner, what are we going to do with this man? And St. Peter said, give him back his 15 cents and tell him to go to hell. Because charity is not what we want. What we want is economic fairness, social justice, equal opportunity for all people. That is what America stands for. That's what we stand for. That's what we're going to try to do. So, who's going to stand up to these forces of greed and stand up for the gougees, the powers that ought to be? Not the powers that be, but the powers that ought to be. The workers, the farmers, consumers, veterans, etc. That's the big question in this year's Democratic primary that we're in right now. Y'all are voting on March 3rd. We are too in Texas. It's going to be a huge day. We got Nevada coming up next weekend, moving right on down the line here. And of course the media has gone just completely batshit because Bernie Sanders seems to be actually getting votes. They're stunned. Elizabeth Warren is getting votes, and progressives are getting votes. They don't bother to add up the fact that Bernie and Elizabeth together are getting about 40 to 45% of the vote. They say, oh, well, they're just minority candidates. Well, no. The minority candidates happen to be the corporate candidates right now. And so they're trying to turn that around to where the corporate candidates will be the chosen ones. The establishment of our party, my party, most of the amusement of the people of Texas, elected twice to statewide office in Texas. And I see that my party is controlled today by what I call pusillanimous Democrats. It's a clean word. You can look it up. Pusillanimous, it's all right. It's kind of a dirty fact of life, but it's a clean word. And this Democratic establishment that we have they're weaker than Canadian hot sauce when it comes to standing up for the people they're supposed to be standing up for. And that's what we're about, is taking over the Democratic Party and turning it into a people's party again, and turning our government into a people's party. They say we got to go slow and small, incremental changes. Don't offend the corporate order. We're after all, we have to appeal to the moderate, independent Republicans. There are approximately 27 moderate, independent Republicans in America. So maybe we should appeal to people who are not so moderate, and maybe not so Republican, but very, very independent, with things like Medicare for all, which I support energetically. We've introduced our own bill in Texas for Medicare for all. We call it Medicare for y'all. And yet there's been a huge push in the press and again corporatized Democrat officials to say, oh, well, we shouldn't be pushing something that strong. We should just be trying to do some tweaking of the Obamacare. Let's not scare people. Indeed, as a woman's governor of Rhode Island, I think maybe Delaware, and she said that. She said, well, when I say Medicare for all, it scares people. Well, I say Medicare for all a lot in my writings and speeches, and it doesn't scare anybody. They stand up and cheer because they want health care for every single man, woman, and child in America as a right, not as a commodity. And and again, we're getting some of these corporate Democrats say, well, the Democrats don't really support Medicare for all. Latest poll out, this was in December, 81% of Democrats support Medicare for all. 81%. 2/3 of independents support Medicare for all. I mean, apple pie doesn't get approval ratings like that. It's astonishing. Elizabeth Warren's wealth tax, 77% of Democrats approve of it, 55% of independents, 57% of Republicans approve of Elizabeth Warren's wealth tax. So we need not fear the people. The people are ahead of us. There was a survey done by the Center for American Progress, which is a establishment Democrat think tank in Washington. Does some good work. But they did a survey of the American people on a number of issues, and they found that 70% plus, including a majority of Republicans, agree college education is too expensive. States should do more to help people afford the education without getting buried in debt. Rich families and corporations should pay more in taxes than they do today. Pharmaceutical companies should be penalized if drug prices increase faster than inflation.
Oh, yeah.
The government should increase good jobs with $1 trillion investment in infrastructure, including roads and expanded production of green energy. We should reduce inequality with a 2% wealth tax on net worth in excess of $50 million. And especially, note this, 8 out of 10 Democrats, 3/4 of independents, 49% of Republicans say corporations have too much power and should be strongly regulated. We don't have to fear the people. We've got to get out there and get involved with the people. And of course, they say, well, Trump's going to call us socialists. Well, he's going to call us socialists if we support Social Security. He's going to call us socialists for anything. Molly Ivins once said that just when you thought there wasn't a dime's worth of difference between the two parties, the Republicans go and prove you're wrong. That is true. And she pointed out also that Americans are not getting screwed by the Republican Party, they're getting screwed by the large corporations that bought and own the Republican Party. We've got to go right at the source of power. And that same power owns too much of our own party and is perverting our party into something that the American people are not going to support and not going to elect. So we've got to stand up to that. That is what our mission is. So my message to you, and I'm sure you're wondering what it is by now.
Keep going, Jim.
Yeah, I'm coming. All right. Is that it's up to us. It's not up to Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren. It's not up to progressive groups, etc. It's up to us, you and me. We got to step forward. And the powers that be try to convince us that we have no power, that it's ridiculous for you to try. Just go home and watch television. Watch Fox News, preferably, but just watch television. Divert yourself. But the fact is that even the smallest dog can lift his leg on the tallest building. We need to take heart in that. And it's not enough for one dog, we got to become a pack of dogs. A national pack of dogs across all kinds of birds. My point is that America can be just as big as we want it to be, just as big as we need it to be. We have the wealth for sure. We have the grassroots support to stand up in bold spirit, in the spirit of not just Franklin Roosevelt, but Eleanor Roosevelt as well. People who would, that these establishment Democrats would be saying, oh, we can't do that, we can't have Social Security, we can't have Medicare, we can't do these things, that's too big, we got to think small. Well, that's the importance of gatherings like this, and of organizations like this, particularly coming together in coalition, as you're beginning to do. There's a little hardware store near my home in Austin called Harold's Hardware. It's no bigger than this room right here, but it's a great place. You can go in. You don't have to buy that whole pack of nails. They'll sell you 2 nails if that's what you're looking for. They'll say, well, what are you trying to do? Well, I want to build this the podium over here. All right, well, let's pencil it out and see what you need. They'll loan you a tool. You can take a power saw home and bring it back. And the slogan at Harold's Hardware is, together we can do it yourself. And that's got to be our slogan. We can't do it ourselves, but together we can do anything we set our minds to. So reach out to even more people who are here, particularly farmers. I do a lot of work with farmers. And they are a hard-hit bunch of people right now, and they need us, but they don't hear from us. And so we've got to go to them. Jane Klebb is going to be at our event in Denver tomorrow. She's the state Democratic Party chair of Nebraska, and she's an Our Revolution person and a Bernie person. And she has written a book about how we reach out to farmers and appeal to them. And so we've got to make these outside constituencies, bring them inside with us. And we've got to do it not just by issues and lecturing, but with music and with good food and a little bit of red wine and beer. We got to lubricate the movement. It should not, politics should not be just a bunch of committee meetings. Who wants to participate in that? So you're on the right track right here. Have more of these fun events and festivals, and then persevere. You know, we don't win the first time out. Always. I didn't. I ran for a statewide office in Texas, lost the first time, came close, turned and ran again and won. And that's the kind of commitment we've got to have. It's a long-term building movement. Willie Nelson once told me, he said, Hightower, the early bird might get the worm, but it's the second mouse that gets the cheese. Do we have to draw pictures for it? And then mainly just agitate. That's what we have to do. That's what built America, and that's what we've got to do. So I'm proud to be a part of it with you. Thank you so much for what you're doing.